This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo. It's that time. An author.
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2. I forgot.
Golfer.
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
And one heck of a TV personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4! I should have yelled 2.
There he is, folks. So we start our second hour on a Overreaction Monday. You have any reaction to our Super Bowl participants, Chiefs, Eagles?
Yeah.
That's your reaction?
Yep.
Well, how about our guy Carson is going to be back in the Super
The
Bowl?
two teams I wanted to win lost. It's kind of the way it's gone this year.
You were rooting for the Bills and the Commanders to win?
Yeah, you know, and the Bobby Babbage connection for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a great story, and Fargo South kid and the family, and just didn't dial up enough right defensive calls.
Yeah, good luck on that, stopping with the Chiefs. Nobody's been able to do that. So, we'll see. It'll be a dynamite.
You still love the
deal
Eagles,
there.
though, don't you? Aren't you?
I have no love for the Philadelphia Eagles. I can tell you that right now. But I'll be intrigued to see the game play. You want a good game. That's all you want. So I have a feeling we're going to have
I feel like
that's
isn't that most people? It's like, oh God, the same two teams. I had a couple of people text me.
It's ironic for Bison fans to say that around here, considering the team they cheer for has won 10 championships in 14 years.
That's very
that
true.
Chiefs are like, what are you doing? Like, you can't have it both ways. That's part I don't get.
Oh, fans can have it both ways. Yes.
It doesn't make any logical sense to me that if you're a Bison fan, you'd be Chiefsed out. But you live to see greatness as a golf fan. You cover golf, and everybody brought this up after the game last night. The Bills could be what Phil Mickelson and Ernie Els were in the 2000s. They were great.
Oh,
but Tiger was there,
yeah.
And Tiger prevented anybody from winning. I mean, the Bills are a great team. Josh Allen's fantastic, and he may never win because he plays at the same time that Patrick Mahomes does.
Quit making sense, will you?
I'm just telling you. It's just a
You're starting to talk me off. You're making too much sense.
How about, here's something that doesn't make sense.
You woke up fresh this morning. You're making sense today. What's going on?
You know what? They're locked and loaded on a Monday. Here's something that doesn't make sense. The North Dakota State men's basketball team attempted 48 three-pointers on Saturday.
I didn't realize that till later in the game, and just looking at the stats and went,
yes.
Oh, wow. But
a school record.
Entertaining as all get out. It's awesome. Again, I wrote this in my story, and we've been saying this all along. This is a Dave Richmond coach team, too.
It doesn't make any sense. They took 58 shots against UND.
And 48.
48 of them were threes. And Greg Steven and I are talking during the broad. I'm looking over like, Greg, they've taken this many and only this many twos. And it was just stunning as the game went along.
And I felt like they really weren't on either. I mean, there were some threes that a couple of those guys, I was like almost shocked they missed.
Yes.
They were wide open looks.
Yep. They weren't forced, though. That's something that Greg and I were talking about during the broadcast. They were good looks. They weren't going in. They did make a couple clutch ones. Jakari White had a couple down the stretch. Javis Miller, you see there, did as well. I don't think you can overestimate what he has brought off the bench. And they found a way to win.
And it's all because Jackson Money can hit the three.
Yes.
And so when you have your center, so to speak, one of your post guys who can step out and is very good at it, and that's 5 guys on the floor who can shoot the three. Yeah. Well, why not? Yep. I mean, it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch this offense. I remember 2-3 years ago, it was not fun to watch this offense.
No, it was like watching paint dry. Frankly, I'll say. And the thing to me that's stunning, and you wrote about it in the game story, 3 separate times a Bison player got fouled shooting a three. Like, the fact that it happens more than as often as it does is a testament to how good the Bison are from three-point range.
Yeah, I think Jakari had either 1 or 2 of those. He's got that fall-away jump shot that I think it's hard to defend, but I think it's tempting for the defender just to go at it. Right.
Well, Money had it happen. Jakari had it. Maybe I think Tajavis did as well, where they got Kasubke. He got fouled. He hit a three and completed a 4-point play. It was just fascinating that it happened as often as it did, but they got the win. And after 2 straight losses to start, Now they've won 5 in a row, and you go back to that 8-game win streak, Jeff. That's 13 out of 15 for Dave's team right now.
Wow, I never realized that. But yeah, you're right. That's it's good ball. He embraced the portal. He's found success in the portal, and obviously that's going to have to be the way to things moving forward. I thought Andy Stefanowicz has really been coming on too, and he's not really scoring a lot. He's not looking to score a lot, but man, he sees the floor so well. Yep. Oh goodness, he's a quintessential point guard. If he develops a little more scoring, he'll be a dynamite guard in the Summit League, and then he's going to go somewhere else.
I talked with Rob and Jody, his mom and dad, after the game, just of how well he's seeing the floor. And both of them said to me, and this was after the game against, just a couple weeks, against Bakersfield before Christmas, like, we never thought he'd be playing as much as he is. And he's out here, and he's making plays and putting people in the right spots. It's been really, really impressive.
Yeah, and he's got his mom's vision.
Yeah.
Jody Buck's vision. And she was, if I remember right, she was that kind of dish type. She had
Amy
things were going.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, she was a player that just really got him going.
Amy told me that they had to encourage Jody to shoot when she was open. That because she was always looking to facilitate, never looking to score, that, hey, you could take the shot if you're open.
Just fast and quick and just was really fun to watch. And Andy's fun to watch, too, from a pure point guard perspective, which I'm a great point guard mind.
You are a great point guard mind. So through the weekend, Omaha won. They won at Oral Roberts. So the Mavericks are unbeaten, 7-0. You got to give it. I mean, they lost Fiddler, and that's their best player. And frankly, they might be better. Which is unbelievable what they've done.
I haven't really really delving into that team much, other than
Kyan Brown's celebrations. You've seen, I'm sure, on social media that have gone viral. Him smashing the trash can. So Omaha is 7-0. St. Thomas is at 6-1. Then the Bison and the Jacks are tied for third. And of course, NDSU hosts SDSU coming up. That game is on Thursday night at the Shack. Then you've got South Dakota, Kansas City, UND, Denver, and ORU. It's a basic. Omaha hasn't lost yet. I don't know who's going to knock them off.
They still have to come up here, right?
No, Omaha won up here.
Oh, that's right.
When we were down in Frisco, it was the Lance
That's
Wall
right. I was still in
football. So they have
to go there. Wow.
So they've already beaten the Bison. They've already beaten the Jacks. And that game was in Omaha as well. So St. Thomas hosts the Bison. That game's on Sunday. This coming Sunday. On CBS Sports Network.
It kind of comes down to the pairings, though, for the Summit Tournament. You want to be opposite of South Dakota State still. I'd rather play Omaha in Sioux Falls than I would South Dakota State.
I wouldn't mind. Here's the caveat of this, because remember this. St. Thomas can't win the conference tournament. I mean, they can play it and win it, but they can't win the automatic bid. So if they were to be in that conference championship game or to win the league, whoever finishes second in the regular season standings would get the automatic bid if St. Thomas were to win the conference tournament. You want to be one or two. It goes without saying, but if you're the Bison or the Jacks, you want to be first or second.
So it's the only time in Summit history forever now that the standings in the regular season will somewhat matter.
Yes.
Other than seedings, of course.
No, absolutely right on that you want to get up to that spot. That's why this week is so big for the Bison. You got the Jacks, and then you go to St. Paul, a team you lost to earlier this season. And St. Thomas is legit, too. That St. Thomas team, they got weapons all over the place. They're really good.
Yeah, and Johnny Towers fixed his roster. They weren't splash hires, so to speak. He's got a couple D3 guys that came up.
Yeah, I mean, right now his two best players, one's a D3 transfer, the other is a freshman, much like they had a couple years ago that they got. And granted, they lost him to go to Virginia, but he's doing out of the Twin Cities, and we talked about it when they got into the league. They were going to be a force.
They'll be just fine in the Big East, Dom, when they get out there.
Park your brakes on that one.
Why?
Because I asked the AD on that. He was on the show.
Oh, what's he going to say?
Said we're very happy with the Summit League.
Okay, now you're not making sense.
Another thing that didn't make sense, the end of the women's game on Saturday. You asked Mallory Bernhardt about this, so we're going to play the last two sequences of what went down. We'll start when the Bison had the ball and Marissa Frost turned it over. There's about 13 seconds left, and again, nobody wanted to take a shot. That's an issue with the Bison women, but they chose not to foul, and then Frost turned the ball over.
I think it was the right call because of what the coach pointed out. after a timeout, you get the ball in front of your bench on your side of the floor. You can
advance the ball in the women's game.
You can advance the ball, so 5 seconds is plenty.
Right, and they got the play they wanted, but they just couldn't inbound the ball. And you got to give Frost some props there for her denial of the ball to get to Schiller.
She's a player. I mean, she's strong. She's a player. But going back, 5 seconds is plenty, and I'd rather do that than put the NDSU out, who's pretty good foul shooters.
They're almost automatic at the line. Yes.
You know, and that's a 4-point lead. Then you certainly don't have a chance. So by not falling with 5 seconds left, you get the ball on your side of the floor. You give yourself a chance.
You interviewed Marissa. I did about a month ago. She doesn't have much to say. She lets her play do the talking. But boy, as a freshman, the amount of impact both freshman guards in that game Saturday were great. Frost was, and anybody that has not seen Jossie Schiller play, they got their full introduction on Saturday.
Yeah, Jossie Schiller. That's the first time I've seen her play in person. I didn't cover any of the high school stuff, and she's got an awareness out there.
She
right?
is. She just adrenaline to go to the basket. I'm not going to be denied, and she did that. She did that in the high school game, and that is transferred over. I wasn't sure how it would transfer over to the college game. It's pretty okay.
I don't know how her 3-point shot is, but maybe that needs a little more development. She really didn't look to, I think, take many. I guess.
Well, when you've got that kind of presence down low, I mean, Fatima Ibrahim had 9 blocks in the game on Saturday.
And I thought the coach did the right move in the end of the game strategy. I would have not. I'm not sure if I would have not changed her on Avery Kunin. At least try it. You know, they're content to have the 6'3". What's her last name? Ibrahim.
Yep.
On Abby Draper.
Yes.
And I would have
swapped that.
And NDSU was going to Kunin every time, and she was scoring every time. I would have at least maybe switched it up once or twice.
That's a perfect segue because Avery was dynamite again. I mean,
she was unstoppable.
She's playing right now as a first-team Summit League player, and she had a stretch there where she scored 9 straight points. She had 12 points alone in the fourth quarter. That's the kind of player that Jory Collins believes she can be. Yeah,
and especially when you get going in the fourth quarter, and she was, and that confidence, that was a nice move there.
Yes.
Her confidence is surging, and she knows she can score on anybody who was Gardner other than Ibrahim, and so I would have switched it.
Yeah.
That's just me.
The ability she has around the basket, and the fact that she missed a couple of free throws. That's the thing she still has to work on there. She can be averaging 20 and 12 a game. That's not out of the realm of possibility for what she can do around the basket.
Seems like it has a pretty nice free throw shot, too.
It's something she got better at, yes, because she was only, I believe, a 67% free throw shooter a season ago. She's got that above 70% right now. But her length and her ability around the basket, it's good recruiting again. You got to give the nod to Jory Collins on that for finding her out of Montevideo. That's not necessarily a basketball haven to get her up here. She was lightly recruited, much like Elle Evans was, and got her to come to Fargo. So now the other showdown is this week. The Bison sit in second, South Dakota State obviously in first, and that's the matchup in Brookings. And, I mean, I could give you all the stats here. This is the one that's crazy to me. The last time the Bison beat the Jackrabbits in women's basketball,
1962.
Barack Obama was still the president. January the 4th, 2015.
And that was an upset. That was a shocking upset. How about that game out? What's it at?
Oh, the streak even beyond that. I mean, prior to that, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row. Prior to that. So you add on that's 31 out of 32 games they have lost. Here's the crazy part. That game was played at Shields Arena.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because the BSA was being renovated to the Shack.
Maybe they go there when they come here.
I mean, the stats are just ridiculous. 22 straight losses. We were there. That game in March at the Premier Center for the Summit League Championship was maybe their best opportunity. South Dakota State didn't play very well, and if the Bison make a couple shots, they may have won that game in March. And now you look at it, and the Jacks are loaded. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take to break. You go off the top about talking about the Chiefs. I don't know what it's going to take to beat.
Here's the
Jack
problem
women.
with the Bison women is we talk about 3-point shooting. I just don't see a whole lot of it right now.
They got it. Yeah, there's nobody late in the game that wants to take a shot in my mind.
And there's just no threat. There's no 3-point threat there.
Abby Graham's out. Abby Graham has that ability, but she's out with a calf strain. She's not going to play.
And the point guard Lenz seems like she's not
streaky. there. Frost has the ability to do it, but Frost is your
She
main
made the only 3-pointer.
She's your main ball handler.
You talk about difference between
that.
men and women. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she's your main ball handler there. But to me, it's even beyond shot making. It's mentality. It is ingrained in all of those players. Certainly on South Dakota State, we don't lose to them. And on the Bison, we can't beat them. And until that happens, I don't know what shakes that, Jeff.
Well, until Kentucky hires Aaron Johnston or
he's not
somebody.
AJ's not going anywhere.
He's
had the opportunity.
I just wonder the money he has left on the table on some of these jobs. I'm assuming he's been contacted and offered.
We know.
Why wouldn't you?
We know he accepted one job. Remember, he took the Green Bay
that was a
job
mile.
and then
That was
backed out of that.
That was like 10 years ago.
Right. But until that happens, especially down there, that's going to be a heck of a challenge down there.
SEC jobs for women's basketball, what are they paying?
Well, Dawn Staley's making quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
That's an SEC
but
job.
I mean, that's
Kim Mulkey's making even more money than that in the SEC.
Well, I'm not talking that.
Those are SEC jobs.
Vanderbilt. What's the women's coach at Vanderbilt make?
I don't have that information off the top of my head, but I imagine it's 6 figures.
Yes.
It's an SEC job. There's something to say about comfort, I think he's certainly got that. And the fact he's able to develop the players he is. I mean, the incoming class at South Dakota State, all freshmen now, are all
I know
South
what you're
Dakota
saying
natives.
about comfort, but at some point, don't you have to go challenge yourself too?
Maybe that's coming. I don't know.
I mean, after a while, do you get tired of pounding teams by 30?
Now, if you keep winning, knowing AJ, the way I do, he loves winning. He loves that more than anything else. And they do that. That's all they do. And they're steamrolling again. That game comes up on Wednesday night down in Brookings. We're due for a break. We come back. We'll chat some football chatter. Jeff had the story on NDSU opting out of the House settlement. We'll get some thoughts on that. Some other football topics as well. Back on Hot Mic on this Monday morning right after this. Rolling on here on a Monday morning, back with Jeff Kolpack joining us. Go through a couple of football topics here because football season always happens. You wrote the story last week. You visited with Bison AD Matt Larson on NDSU's decision that they're going to opt out of the House settlement.
For this year. 99.9%.
Give us the backstory on this and how this affects going forward on the FCS side of things.
Well, it's all about the House versus NCAA settlement. Yeah. And the first part was back pay to the athletes, which was, I forgot the numbers, but
$2.6 billion.
2.78.
Yeah. There you go.
And so now the second part is, you can pay $20.6 million from your institutional funds to distribute in revenue sharing to your athletes. And so you either have to opt in on that or opt out. Now, the consequence is if you opt in, as it is now, it's changing. They're capping rosters at 105 players, meaning you can offer up to 105 scholarships compared to the current 85 at FBS, 63 in FCS. Now, Montana apparently sounds like they're opting.
Montana State
in.
definitely is in. Yep.
They're in. So they'll have their rosters capped at 105. But here's the other thing. And Matt Larson brought this up, and I've read about it. It was last week where the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights is saying, well, of that $20.6 million of revenue sharing, that is subject to Title IX legislation, which I don't know. I've covered a OCR investigation at NDSU when I first started in the mid 90s. The volleyball program was investigated by the OCR. I don't know if you ever want to mess with them.
You don't want to go down that road.
No.
Now, here's the thing. With a new president and new Senate, new Congress in, there's a high chance that because the Biden administration rolled that out like 4 days before Biden was being done as president, that very well could be overturned.
So we'll see. But if you're a school of $20.6 million of revenue sharing, and right now you think you're going to give $17 million to the football program, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. You
better be awfully certain before you go down that road.
Also, I mean, scholarship-wise and just the roster limit part of it, that
Matt brought up
hamstrings you there, in my mind.
You graduate 20, 25 players,
right?
Another 10 go in the portal, another 10 have off-season surgeries. Now you're down to 60, 65 players. How can you have spring football?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been on the mindset.
And the walk-on, we haven't even talked about the walk-on program.
The walk-on is more important to me than spring football because I think a lot of coaches would be like, if spring football went away, I don't think they would be that upset about it.
But it's a good development piece.
I'm not arguing that, but I think there's a lot of coaches that would tell you that we're so beat up anyway, we don't even know what our roster is, and now we have a portal window. Maybe we have an earlier fall camp.
I guess you got to develop some.
But maybe
somehow.
you start earlier in the fall. Maybe you start mid-July. You have like the NFL. We're going to go for 6 weeks before we start.
I don't know. I mean, then you're getting rid of your summer conditioning.
But that's part of it. That's what I'm saying. That goes into that.
Maybe.
Because the college game already models the NFL game anyway. Why don't they put on the same calendar? Now to the walk-on part of it. That is the one that would go away. That, which has been NDSU's lifeblood and several other programs in the FCS level. If you were to opt into that, that becomes awfully hard. Then you have no walk-ons, basically.
And it's mandated for Power 4. You have to opt in.
Yes.
And so now they will be down to 105 players. Right. And we talked about this before, that a lot of these programs will have to cut, from 130.
I'd say 25 guys, right? Yeah, they're going to be cut.
But if you're FCS programs and thinking those are impact guys, think again, they are not. They are not. Because I know of one school who's trying to get Division II coaches to look at those guys that they're going to have to cut. It's more, they're not impact FCS guys.
To try to get down to 105, you're saying.
Yeah, they're walk-ons. They're what they called favor recruits, meaning, hey, this booster's kid, can you give him
Division I player?
Wants to give it a shot. Can you give him a shot? Things like that.
I'd be intrigued to see what this comes about, especially at the FCS level. If you have different, like Montana State, then is going to have a different roster size than NDSU in terms of scholarships. How does that play out on the field?
Yeah, and now some FCS schools, like the bottom of the barrel, they might be able to benefit from some of those guys who are getting cut at the FBS level, maybe. But I wouldn't expect that. If you're 120th guy at Kentucky, okay, do you think you're going to make a difference in FCS level football? The difference isn't really a whole lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole thing is very, very odd. And again, no one's ever played on the same rules on that. The difference, and we were talking about this with Sam in the first hour, with FCS where you can spread your scholarships out, it's not like it's 85 full rides that you can spread out. If you want to do 105, you could do that with 63 scholars, And the other way they're getting kids in now is, we're not going to play. You're not going to be on tuition, but the collective will take care of your tuition.
So NDSU is getting their corner from Texas Tech, Jalen Peoples, correct? He was a pretty highly touted guy,
he had
highly recruited.
He had 30 offers out of high school.
Yeah, he was no walk-on at Texas Tech. And I don't think he's going to come in and start here right away.
Probably
or at least
not.
They're not projecting him
to
be their shutdown corner right away. So there's an example right there, Dom, where you have a pretty highly touted guy at Tech who just couldn't crack the lineup, was on scholarship, and wanted to maybe find a place and he's coming here, and they're not expecting him to be the guy right away.
No.
What about their Texas Tech's 110th guy? Do you think he's going to go anywhere and make a difference? He's a walk-on or no?
I think more often than not you're finding they are good players. I don't know if they're stud
I'm not saying
players.
They're horrible, but I'm saying by and large, what I understand,
different difference makers are there, right?
What I understand is you're looking at Division II type players.
Yeah, something to watch. Again, as I mentioned, off season is normally busier.
I guess we'll find out.
Season, right? Exactly on where that goes from there.
What's this horse all about?
That's Racer One. After all the attention you gave Racer One Love back in October,
we got a new jockey.
Are you part of that group now? Are you part of the
yeah.
equestrian outfit down there? Yeah, you guys had a big week down there in October.
Got a new jockey. Everything's looking up.
Is it?
Got to find an offense to score more.
You see the big news out of the week? Zeb's out of the game.
I saw that.
Zeb is going to step away from coaching, which I thought he was a slam dunk to stay in the coaching game.
I didn't know how much he liked it there, I guess. We talked to him.
It was definitely a challenge.
It was a challenge.
The week we visited with him when we were down in Murray, but salute to Zebulaya. It was a great
run. What's he going to do? Do we know?
Something outside of football. So he's got options, certainly from his family background there. But
you can't take the football out of him.
Well, I would think not, but he's just a football junkie. But apparently he's going to be done there with that. Also, one other note for people that saw, South Dakota State wrapped up its staff with one Logan McCormick, former Bison defensive end, national champion 3 times over.
Good guy. I'm sure he's going to make a good coach. Or is a good coach.
Kimberly Papermaker, much like one Colton Eagle. They found some great players out of there. And, he's going to be a defensive line coach after working the last couple of years.
Oh, man, he's going to give all the Bison secrets.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking with him shortly on the program about going to South Dakota, because he never minced words about playing the Jackrabbits.
Now, it'd have been nicer if he got there last year. Now he's going to probably be a lot of coaching going on right now.
Well, the number is, and we got to wrap here, but SDSU between players on the roster and commits is about 35, almost 40, Jeff. That's a lot. Now, I have no idea, because the counterpoint would be, if I'm glass half empty guy, we're taking a bunch of FCS guys to compete in the Pac-12. Are we going to be any good?
But it's not the Pac-12 of FBS of old.
It is not, but it's still FBS football. There's a jump there. I mean, some of those guys are definitely good enough. They're definitely, Caleb Franzel, definitely good enough. Large, pretty good. I think he can compete at the, I don't know about these other guys.
Yeah, I feel like right now the Pac-12 is more group of five than it is
Boise State's
Power
pretty darn
4.
good. Boise State's in the Pac-12 starting next year. Boise State was the
I'm just
fourth-ranked
saying
team.
it's more than compared to what it was.
So you think these guys will be A-okay at that level?
I think most.
Okay.
This is so new. It's just bizarre. In our life, we've never seen this.
And I would say it's not far out of the realm of possibility if Tim Polisic were to get a job after this year.
Yeah.
That this couldn't happen here in Fargo. I would, it's not out of the realm of possibility. You need players to go. If Luke Fickell sucks at Wisconsin this coming year, what does Wisconsin do? Get rid of him and, hey, got a Wisconsin guy who's coached at North Dakota State.
But are these Big Ten players, though, here? I'm saying that's different between Big Ten players and current Pac-12 players.
The Pac-12 is now, yes, I agree with that.
I don't think you take 35 guys.
No, but you probably take a handful.
Maybe.
Certainly it buys an offensive line prospects I would take a look at. If that wide receiver had one more year, I'd go grab him. But he doesn't after this season.
Heard he had quite the busy afternoon.
He was the most popular guy
at the game.
We had
Bryce Lance.
We had Cole Payton on during between games of our broadcasts on Saturday, and he and Bryce Lance were out with taking photos with the championship trophy. That line went out the door between games. Imagine saying that this time last year, that there'd be people lined up out the door to get their photo with Bryce Lance.
How many people would line up with you and I with a nickel?
About
two?
three. About three.
Two?
Yeah,
no, three's being
under over is 3.5.
Three's being a little generous.
Going over there, so I would probably go under on that if that's probably the case. So
Dewey, I know.
Dewey would do it.
Dewey would do it.
I don't know who else would. Great to see you, bud. Thanks for coming by. Jeff Kolpack kickstarting our week here on this Monday morning. We'll break. We come back. I have got the official Twins streaming info. It's going to require some explanation on it. We'll get to that when Hot Mike rolls on this Monday morning. We're back after this.